to everyone who says that you can't run Photoshop in Linux, I say, yes, you can. And here's how. To download Winboat, simply open your favorite browser of choice, navigate to winboat.app in your address bar. Then in the middle of the page, there's a nice download button. Click on that and pick the download/installer for your browser of choice, or get the universal app image, which works with most distributions. If you're using Debian, you might be interested in the .deb package. Also Ubuntu, Fedora, the RPM package is available to you. And for Arch-based distros, you can download this off of the AUR. A note on that, it is not maintained by the Winboat team. It's actually maintained by the community, so use that at your own risk. The rest of them are, but you're also responsible for your own upgrades. For my purposes, I'm going to download off of the AUR because I'm using Cache OS right now. Let's minimize this, and we'll open a terminal and type in paru winboat-git and hit enter. It'll ask us which package we want. Really, there's only the one, so I'll put in 1. It'll give us all of the dependencies, which includes Docker and everything else that's required. So I'll say yes. For the package build, hit Q and accept the changes. Then put in my handy-dandy password. And she's off to the races, friends. Let it do its thing, and hopefully we'll have a working Winboat in just a few seconds. And now that it's finished, we should be able to run it. So let's close our terminal. You can launch it by going to the app menu, typing in Winboat, or close to that. Hit enter on Winboat. And here we are on the welcome screen. Just hit next. Then agree to be a human Sentai pad, because we know you're not reading all of this. You agreed to this. And now you're on the prerequisites screen. Make sure all of these handy dandy check marks are here and none of them are evil red X's. However, if you do have evil red X's, and for some reason there's conveniently 7 evil X's, they've included handy dandy how links, so click on those. They'll give you the terminal commands and everything else that you need to get up and running. I'm not going to go through that right now because I find their instructions are pretty darn clear. Once you've got all of these green, you're free to hit next. Now is when you choose the ISO for Windows that you want to install. It defaults to Windows 11 Pro, but you can choose other versions or even use a custom ISO file of your choosing. So say I want to install Windows 10 Pro. I'd hit next. This is where you put in your user info for your Windows installation. So your username and your password. Make sure it's only alphanumeric characters and it's a minimum of 4 characters long. And then hit next. Now you're going to configure your hardware. They recommend not going over half of your physical hardware resources. So for me, I'm going to set mine to 16 cores and 48 gigs of RAM, thereabouts. And for physical disk space, depends on your needs. Some pieces of software you might want to use are bigger than others, so that's up to you 100%. For my purposes, I'm not going to be using anything too large on here, so I'm going to give it about 256 gigs and hit next. It's going to confirm all the settings that you want to have it set up with. So you got your OS, your cores, your disk space, your RAM, your language, your username, and if you're satisfied with that, hit install. It's going to start a container within Docker, and it's going to download the ISO from Microsoft servers. This may take a while depending on your internet connection, and the bog on the Microsoft server end. So be patient with that, and once it's done downloading, it's going to actually do a Windows installation. So give it a moment. Once it's downloaded, it'll actually start installing Windows. Now, if you're like me and you get bored watching this particular throbber just sort of do its thing down here or over here, and you want to know what's actually going on, they've included a link to view the installation process in your browser. So if you click that, it'll pop a browser open. You can see what it's doing with the Windows install here. It's legitimately running it on a virtual machine in the background. So that's pretty exciting if you like to watch that. Otherwise, you can just close that, sit here and wait. Once Windows is finished downloading and installing successfully, you'll be greeted with another nice, beautiful green checkbox. Just hit finish, and you should be good to go. And there it is, the Windows 10 Pro installed, running on our hardware selection of choice. And now comes the magic part. If we click on Apps, you can see all of the apps we have currently available to us that are installed on Windows, or even the Windows desktop itself. So if we want to actually launch into a Windows desktop environment, we just click on that. It'll prompt us that we need to sign in on one of the user accounts that are signed in. We click on that if it bothers us, and boom, we're on the Windows desktop. Right now we're running Windows 10 on top of Linux. Isn't that lovely? And you could do whatever you need in here, you know, run File Explorer or Paint. You know, everything you could normally do on Windows, you can do in here. But if you want to see the true magic of Winboat, it's when you get out of the desktop and try running one of these applications on their own. Like, maybe we want to run that MS Paint again, so we click on Paint. Gasp! It's Paint. But we're in Linux. Oh my. It's crazy. Yep. There's a little bit of glitching, but nothing too bad. Or maybe we're absolutely crazy mad lads, and for some reason we're insane enough to want to run Microsoft Edge, even though there's a native Linux version. You could click on that. There it is, MS Edge. That's insane. You could run Photoshop like this, Office 365, no problems. Basically, the sky is the limit. You can configure it here so that it auto starts with Linux, or if you don't want it to auto start with Linux, that's fine. It does create a little overhead, so if you want to save on performance and run it only when you want to run it, that's fine too. And that's basically Winboat in a nutshell. If you want to install new software, just go into your Windows desktop and install the software like you normally would under Windows, and it'll appear in this list. Amazing, right? There are some caveats. For example, there is that overhead because you are running a virtual machine of Windows on top of Linux. There is also the fact that GPU is not parallelized, it's not pushed through yet to the virtual machine, so don't try running games or anything like that. They won't go well. That is something that the developers are possibly looking at for future releases of Winboat, so keep your eyes on that. USB devices can be passed through to the virtual machine. Currently, they can only do that through a configuration file, although future updates, they plan to add that functionality to the GUI, so look forward to that. I know that's one of the main things I'm looking forward to. And there's going to be a myriad of other updates, but right now, this is a really, really cool and helpful piece of software. So if you're wanting to run Windows programs as if they were native Linux programs, if you want to run Photoshop in Linux, this is about as close as you're going to get. I hope this was helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next video.